Alright, good morning ladies and gents. Welcome to our last lab of the year. So today we are going to be doing a vanilla creme brulee for our last lab for desserts. Really love this recipe. Not only can you use the custard that we're going to make for a creme brulee, but you can add a little bit of cornstarch to it, make a really rich pudding. You can take this custard, put it in your freezer, make ice cream, or just have it as a great vanilla dessert sauce. Today what we're going to be doing is we are going to be baking it. So what you are going to need is you are going to need 2 cups or 16 ounces of heavy cream, 1 vanilla bean or a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm going to be using a vanilla bean paste, a pinch or 1/8 of a teaspoon of kosher salt, 5 egg yolks, 4.5 ounces of white sugar or half of a cup of sugar, plus you'll need a little bit extra for the actual toasting part. And then optionally you can go with any other flavorings that you want. I'm going to be using lemon here. Again, not to make it super lemony, though I do like the flavor of lemon in this, but just add a little bit of acidity to it. All right, so with these ingredients out of the way, let's go to our first step. All right, sorry if the audio changes here a little bit. I've had to switch to another camera. The first camera battery died. But the first step you're going to do is you're going to preheat this oven to 325 degrees. Now, inside the oven itself, you're going to need to place a roasting tray, a roasting pan or a roasting tray of some sort. Then you are going to fill this pan up with water so that when you have your custard cups, no matter what size that you are using, that they'll come up about halfway up the ramekin. So that looks alright. I think I got it pretty set there. So I'll take that out, let this preheat with the water inside, and we will go to the custard. Alright, now for step 2, I am going to combine my heavy cream, just measuring that out to 16 ounces. Again, when it comes to most baking and pastry, measuring by weight is way more accurate and way more consistent time after time than by volume. Again, you can go with volume here. Again, 2 cups of heavy cream, but again, significantly better to not do that. Alright, in there I'm going to combine the cream, my vanilla bean or vanilla extract. Here I'm going to be using about a tablespoon or so of vanilla bean paste, which is basically real vanilla beans that have been put into kind of a sugar syrup. Really good in a pinch there. And then a pinch of salt. Okay, I'm going to simply just combine this together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this on the heat on about medium-low heat just until this starts to come up to a simmer. Now keep a close eye on this because milk and dairy, whenever you heat it up, has a tendency to boil over very, very quickly. In fact, it's sort of a restaurant industry joke that milk only boils over when you look away from it. So keep an eye on it. Again, low, medium heat. And then once it just comes up to a simmer, then you'll go on to the next step with this cream. So that's what I'm going to do now. And my recommendation is whisk this every once in a while, just to prevent the bottom of the pot from scorching. Alright, meanwhile, while my cream is heating up on the stove, what I'm going to do is I'm going to beat together my sugar, my egg yolks, and if you're using the lemon juice, just until it becomes light and airy. Now, for the egg yolks, let me show you how to get those. So, when you have your egg, there's a couple ways that you can separate your egg white and egg yolks. One of the most common ways that people do this is that they take the egg, they just split it right in half. And then what they try to do is they open up the egg and then they kind of slide the yolk back and forth in between the shells until this white part just kind of falls right through. Okay, now this can work if you're careful. So I got my egg yolk here and I'll just plop it right into the bowl. However, there's a couple problems with this. One, if you are trying to separate egg yolks and egg whites and you need the whites for something like a meringue or something that you need to whip air into it, there's a lot of sharp edges to an eggshell that will just puncture the yolk and make it break. Also, it takes a while. So the best advice that I can give you here, the quickest and most efficient way of separating an egg yolk and an egg white is just use the best tool that you have, your hand. Now I know it's going to seem a little bit weird. Again, if you feel more comfortable, you can do that eggshell thing back and forth. But trust me, when you have to do a bunch of these, especially if you work in a restaurant, doing it this way is significantly quicker. So all you're going to do is you're just going to kind of cup your hand and then just crack the egg right in, and then just let the white slide right between your fingers. There you go, just like that, I have the egg yolk. So once again, just take egg, crack that, crack it right in, just open up your fingers just enough for the white to slide right through, and there you have it. So I'm going to do that 2 more times, and then we'll go on to the next part. Alright, now what's nice about this is that you now have a bunch of egg whites to use to make meringue or any range of other desserts like angel food cake that we made earlier this year. Okay, alright, I'm going to save that. You can put egg whites into the freezer. They are actually really, really good at keeping there, and then you can just have them out whenever you need them. Alright, so I'm also going to add in my lemon juice. Again, I can use my fingers here just to kind of strain the seeds out. Make sure no seeds get into my custard base here. Just let the juice flow right through. Alright, from there, I'm just going to simply whisk this together until the yolks turn into what is called a ribbon stage. I'll show you that here in a sec, so I'm just going to keep whisking vigorously. Alright, at a certain point, while you're whisking, the yolks and sugar will start to kind of thicken, almost like a very thick mayonnaise or very thick hollandaise. And the way you can tell when it's gotten to the ribbon stage is when you take your whisk out of the yolks, and you can almost make streaks in the yolk mixture. I don't know if you're able to see this, but you can see kind of as I let the yolks fall, you can almost make streaks with it. At this point, the egg yolks have denatured a bit, and now you can add in your dairy to make a custard. So I'm still waiting for the cream to come up to a boil, and once it does that, I will show you the next part here. Alright, so my dairy has come up to a boil. You can see it's nice and hot. Alright, so now I have to combine these two, but we have a small problem here. If I take this screaming hot liquid and put it directly into my egg yolks, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to scramble, and you're going to have chunks in the custard, which is not what you're looking for. So we have to do a technique called tempering, which is where we slowly introduce this into this, just because, again, this is screaming hot. So here's what you're going to do. So this is the next step here, where you're going to temper the egg yolk and the cream mixture. So what I'm going to do is, while I'm whisking with one hand, in fact, one thing that'll make my life a little easier is if I set the bowl on a towel here. and start whisking. I'm going to add in just a tiny bit of the cream at a time. Okay, a little bit by little bit. Now, I'm not so worried as far as making a emulsion here because we're mainly combining water and water, so I'm not really concerned about that. This is more of a temperature thing. Okay, so this is allowing me to slowly bring up the temperature of the egg yolks, slowly and slowly, and then once it starts to warm up, I can stream this in a little bit more quickly, but you want to make sure you're constantly whisking this. Okay, now that it's combined, I'm going to pour it back into my pot here. And I'll make sure to scrape down the bowl here. Definitely don't want to waste anything here. And just like that, we have a custard. And like I said at the beginning of the video, you can do a lot of things with a basic custard. Now, you can, just from here, put this back on the stovetop and just cook it until it thickens up a little bit. And it coats the back of a spoon. And you would have a creme anglaise, a very delicious vanilla cream sauce that you can have with cake, with any other dessert that needs a creamy vanilla sauce. You can freeze this or put it into an ice cream maker and make an amazing vanilla bean ice cream. And like I said, you can make this into a pastry cream quite easily with a little bit of cornstarch. What we're going to do, like I said, is bake them. So, from here, super important, just to taste for sweetness and to taste for acidity and salt. Okay. Now, do not worry. Like I have discussed before in class, the odds of you getting salmonella from a little bit of egg yolk here is pretty small. It's not nothing. It's not zero, but it's super, super low. All right, I'm tasting that, and for my personal preference, that is definitely sweet enough. I personally am going to add a little bit more lemon here. Again, I personally like the flavor of lemon here. Now I'm adding enough lemon juice to make this distinctly lemon. Normally we've said you only add enough acid in there just to kind of balance it out and add a little bit of acidity. This time I'm purposely adding lemon juice to make it taste lemony. Okay, but that's my personal choice. Okay, a little bit more salt in there, and we are good to go as far as filling our custard cups. All right, so I'm gonna slide this over, and here I've got my ramekins. Now you can go with a variety of different sizes here. The main thing is you want them to be pretty close to the same size, so you can use very large custard cups here, like this one I have here. You can see it's double the size, but I'm not going to do that just because I want all these to bake somewhat evenly here. So I'm just going to simply pour it almost up to the little lip of the ramekin cup here. Now I've actually got enough for a fifth one. This will be an experimental one. I've never done a custard in a glass custard cup. However, it'll be perfectly safe for the oven. All right, from here we go back to the oven. All right, from here I'm going to very carefully place the ramekins into the water. I know some people, what they prefer to do is actually put the ramekins inside the water bath first, then fill them up. It's really not a big difference either way. Okay, and then my last one here. Now the water should come up about halfway up the sides. This one actually went a little bit above that. It's not a big deal. It's just you want it to go at least halfway up the sides. Now what will happen is that the water bath will help the custards cook a little bit more gently so that you get a nice creamy custard when these are done and baked. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bake them anywhere between, say, 30 and 40 minutes until the edges are pretty set and the center is still pretty wobbly here. Alright, so now that they're done cooking here, I'm just going to show you what you're looking for here. Now, be super careful when you're taking these out of the oven because you don't want hot custard to spill on you. But if I shake this back and forth, you'll kind of see, here, I'm going to use tongs because this is still kind of hot. You'll be able to see that the custard is still wobbly. Okay, same with this one. Still wants to wobble a bit. Oops. Oh well. Well, anyway, this one on the other hand, but that's ideal that you want it just a little wobbly there. It's a little undercooked now, which is perfect. If you cook it fully, what's going to happen is that the residual heat is going to continue cooking it and it's going to be curdled and overcooked by the time that you're ready to serve it. So from here, we're just going to let it cool. We are then going to put it into the fridge from anywhere between 2 hours or for a couple of days. You basically want to give this time to fully set, and while it looks very wobbly now, by the time we're ready to serve this, it will be perfectly set, nice and creamy, and we'll be able to brulee it. Alright, so several hours later, we have our baked custard, and you can see it's completely set. Now, the best way to do this is with a butane torch, okay? And I'm going to show you how to do this. Now, if you can't do this, then what you can do is you can just simply hit broil, put it on your highest setting here, and then if we go into the oven, if you place the top, rack in your oven the very, very top, you can see the heating elements from the top of the oven will radiate onto the top of your ramekin and caramelize the sugar. This is not the most ideal way, but it will work because it will heat up the custard a little bit, but again, you can definitely use this. But I'm going to be going with this instead. Now, I've already put my ramekin on something that is fireproof here. Obviously, when you're dealing with a flame here, you don't want to have anything flammable anywhere near this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of sugar just right over the top of this, nice and evenly. Okay, now whenever you are bruleeing anything here, the key is that when you have your torch, is you don't want to just concentrate the flame just on one spot. You want to be moving the flame back and forth and just kind of evenly distributing the heat. Alright, so don't be nervous here. Obviously, yes, be careful. It is, you know, a torch, but if you play it safe here, you should be fine. So I'm going to, facing away from me and facing away from anything that's flammable, I'm going to turn on the gas flow and then hit my trigger. There we go. And now just going to slowly just control my gas flow here. There you go. And then just wave the torch over, kind of just waiting for that sugar to slowly start to melt. Okay, and I don't want to concentrate on any one spot. Just let this slowly happen. So, see, I'm constantly moving the flame here. Okay. Now, some spots are going to brown more than others. That is okay. Alright. There we have it. Then I'm going to turn off or crank down my gas source. then I will, just as an optional step here, just because I kind of like it, is add a little bit of either sea salt or kosher salt right on top. That seems a little bit weird to do that, but salt has a cool feature with it in that it tends to kind of mute some of the more bitter notes that caramel can sometimes create, especially since, as you can see, we've torched the top. Obviously, the big flavor here is going to be sweetness, but in some spots there's a little bit of that char, a little bit of that pleasant bitterness that we can kind of cut through a little bit with some salt. All right, from here, let this sit for like 1 or 2 minutes here, and then we will show you what the top crust is like. So, you can see my creme brulee here is set, ready to go. And if you can listen carefully, it's have a nice crispy, crunchy topping to it. So, there you have it. So, I'm not going to dig into this on camera here, but here is a great dessert, very classy dessert. You have the very rich, very sweet, creamy custard underneath, with a perfect, nice crunchy candy coating up top. All right, and what you can serve with this, some serving suggestions is you can serve this with some fresh fruit, some strawberries, raspberries, and even maybe a little bit of whipped cream, homemade whipped cream, just right on the edge there. Again, just kind of lightens it up a little bit. But that is it. That is our last lab for this year. Hopefully some of you guys, if you are interested in the dessert side, you are more than welcome to join us in baking and pastry, where we do a lot of different desserts, and it's definitely very, very fun. All right, if you have any questions for me, of course, just let me know. And make sure to fill in your mise en place sheet.